A big hello and a very warm welcome to Brand Equity with me, Sonali Krishna. It's a special showing, as you can see. I'm right here at the Cannes Lions 2019, and joining me, extremely important guests from a global advertising marketing landscape standpoint. I'm talking about Tim Andree from DENTSU'S Aegis Network. Many thanks for joining me right here on Brand Equity.
It's such an honor. Thank you.
Give me a sense in terms of the kind of monies that you've paid, because you've seems like you have a really fat purse. What is the global strategy in terms of all these big acquisitions that you've been making?
Well, there's a strategy that we have for our business, and then we use acquisitions to execute that strategy. So our strategy is not necessarily to buy companies. Our strategy is to build out a holistic network where we can deliver media and performance, consumer experience, data analytics and loyalty, as well as continue to build out the evolving world of creativity. So we focus on building a network that operates in the most important markets in the world, where our clients want to be, and that can deliver holistic solutions that can compete and win against anyone in that market. But when a global client wants to operate across markets, can collaborate well together. So we've been operating that strategy, and yes, we've been fairly aggressive, always at the top end of the lead tables on the M&A, and I like to think it's part of the fact that we've had good growth and people recognize that DENTSU is doing something different. We're trying to build a network. We're not really just trying to be a holding company that sweats assets. We're trying to build a network of people who can come together, and by being together, we end up advancing these businesses. So most of the companies we acquire accelerate their growth afterwards. And yeah, I think over the course of 10 years, I've done maybe close to 200 acquisitions.
Exactly.
Our largest acquisition was Aegis Media, which was a public company. We spent invested $5.2 billion in that, and that's publicly known. And we've made other big investments like Merkle in the United States, which brought us into data and digital. And we've made smaller, more strategic investments of attracting great people like our friends at Taproot in India, who joined us a few years back. So the size and scale of the investment isn't the important. It's what's the fit and how we build out in a market of competitives.
For the uninitiated, for people who are not well versed with the DENTSU story, could you flash back and take me back to about 10-15 years ago, and what the company stood for then, and how you've transformed yourself to become a global, energetic player that you are today?
Well, yeah, I've been with the company almost 15 years now, so it's about the right time. DENTSU for more than 100 years has been the player in the Japanese market and has helped build the advertising and marketing industry in Japan. And over the course of that time, no company in the world has kind of had the presence in their home market that DENTSU had in Japan. We're probably have a 30% share of all the investment in marketing in Japan. We're maybe 80% larger than our other competitor.
Right.
And then for a period of time, DENTSU always tried to reach out to the global world through some sort of partnership. We had partnerships with Dentsu Y&R.
Sure.
We had a partnership with Havas at one time, HDM. We were owners in BCom3. When I joined the company, we had a 15% stake in Publicis. But that never allowed us to really bring forward the Dentsu way globally. And we decided that given the macroeconomic growth in Japan was just never going to be there, that we had to go our own way. And so really, in 2007, we started pursuing a strategy of globalization and digitalization. At that time, when I joined the company, we were about a third of the size that we are now as a business, but only 3% of our revenues were outside of Japan. Since that time, we're now 3 times larger, and almost more than 60% of the revenues come from outside of Japan in a diverse array of capabilities, and a high propensity of our business is now digital. So of the global business, over 60% of the ratio of our business is in the digital space.
Right.
That's a real departure for us compared to the other holding groups, because we started later, right?
No, very recently,
Yeah,
very young.
and so we're a 117-year-old company in Japan, but Dentsu Aegis Network is only 6 years old. So there's not a lot of legacy here. We've brought in the new companies, the innovative companies that are helping drive growth, but are also creating the kind of work that's technology enabled, that's data informed, but still is really creativity led that clients need in this market.
So I have a couple of rejoinders to what you just said. One being when you say that 60% of your business now is outside of Japan, and of that 60, a significant portion is coming via digital. I'm curious to understand, how do the margins work when the digital business and everybody is looking at increasing their digital revenue? Are the margins in the digital space considerably better than the traditional ones?
I wouldn't say they're considerably better, but I'd say they can be over time. It depends on what you attach to them. And so clearly, the more capability you have to provide a holistic solution to clients with digital and really data at the center, then you have an opportunity to kind of be a longer term partner with clients. You have an opportunity to deliver more solutions to those clients. And with that scale and with that long term, you have an opportunity to increase your margins and increase your importance to those clients. So I wouldn't say that the relative margins are all that different right now. We haven't suffered, in fact, a margin erosion because of the shift to digital. But the opportunities
isn't that
are
obvious
great.
that there will be a margin erosion with the whole world moving, with more and more revenue coming on the back of digital?
I don't think that's necessarily true.
No?
I think the opportunities with digital, as well as what it's allowing us to do with every shift that markets shift to digital, the importance of data becomes more important because you can do real attribution and insights to make the media investment more efficient. And with that efficiency, marketers have a bigger opportunity to have greater impact. And also, the world used to be a very simple place. There's much more complexity in the market today, and a big opportunity for us is to help clients navigate this complexity, to help getting paid for the ideas. In the past, the industry was much more of an executional industry.
Yeah, sure.
Now, digital transformation is at the heart of business transformation, and is at the heart of the disruption that every sector, every client's facing. So our opportunity is to really drive into the C-suite and become a real partner at the top. And that consultative partnership has margin opportunity in it.
But in the future?
It's happening now.
Is it?
Absolutely.
It is. And how would you say, and because you have the opportunity to model yourself and engineer yourself to today's complex landscape, how are you modeled differently from, let's say, the WPPs, Omnicoms, and IPGs of the world?
I think in a few key important ways. The first is we've structured our business to be complementary. So in other words, we've created a set of offerings or lines of businesses and brands, but we don't pit those brands against each other. We tend to try to go to clients with our best possible solution, and then add to that solution another brand or capability. So I think the big difference in our structure is we're not trying to just build scale. We're trying to drive really world-class specialisms to clients that are integrated by design, that can provide them holistic solutions, as opposed to having multiple similar offerings competing against each other in order to capture that piece of business from the client. And I think that's a big differentiation. Another one is that we've organized ourselves...
Before you go to the second point, just to understand what you just said, the whole point of what the traditional holding companies created wasn't the purpose to maximize revenue and profitability. Isn't that why they went down that route?
I think at one time that idea that scale and that idea that trying to unbundle services so you could make more profit off of them probably provided a temporary solution in the old world. But as you come into digital and the importance of digital, it's almost impossible to manage the ecosystem and that separation. That unbundling, in fact, is now they're all trying to figure out how to reorganize themselves to get that realignment that digital is requiring.
So that's interesting. So how do you see the future in terms of these companies reorganizing themselves? Or is there going to be a big collapse?
Well, I think the market is really evolving, and I don't really have a crystal ball. There's lots of options, right? So we have new competitors coming in from the consultative landscape. The companies are trying to, our competitors are trying to kind of deal with their legacy and reorganize themselves. Clearly, some of our competitors are following our lead. We made an investment 3 years ago in a company called Merkle, which is data and people driven, and you can see some of the competitors trying to add data now. So it's really unclear, but I think you can expect continued convergence. You can expect all of these various companies that are trying to work on business transformation and digital transformation moving to the center. And I do think it's going to be a much more highly competitive environment with the likelihood of some different players organizing and the likelihood of some players potentially being disrupted.
All the hullabaloo that surrounds this world right now with, the different jargons we're thrown, digital transformation being one of the biggest, biggest transformatory word used for this industry.
Certainly the theme of Cannes this year. Yeah.
Every year. And, and it's my reading, when you meet executives and from different, whether it's the consultancies or the traditional holding companies or new hybrid models, each one has a theory that, encompasses all these terms. But what you're actually seeing on ground in the digital world, which is currently just focusing on social media and serving, messaging on social media, not that disruptive. Wouldn't you agree?
No, I think the big shift, it's the reason we're shifting is because with the advent of digital, with the advent of social media, the power has shifted from the brands and from us to the consumer.
Yes, there is more consumer activism.
The consumer is leading it. And so we have to change the model to recognize the power that the consumer has. And it's going from a communication industry to an industry where you have to the brand must provide value to the consumer with the message or they're going to tune you out.
I'm glad you brought that up. Now everybody's talking about value to the consumer. And this time round, I heard a new word, and honestly, it was hilarious. I heard it from the consultants, and they were talking about how it's very important now for brands to have empathy. And that's their new buzzword. All consultancies are using it, be it Accenture or Deloitte. I don't even understand what it means, consumer empathy.
Well, we don't use that word. What we think you have to provide to consumers is value. In other words, they have to invite you in. And so it has to be relevant. Relevance is the key thing. And based upon that relevance, obviously, we're still going to give them, and drive ideas to the consumer, but they're going to be more pulling in and they're much more selective and have the ability to select who enters their world. And I think, that's clearly part of what we believe is going to happen. The idea of empathy, what's important to consumers these days, I believe is that the messages that they receive from brands, their expectations of brands are to know them, to provide value to them and not waste their time. Also, there's another core element of they expect brands to have a social purpose, to have a social responsibility.
This industry seems to has morphed itself into an industry that's saving the world, or at least pretending to save the world.
I think the next generation's trying to save the world. I guarantee you, I have a 24-year-old son, and he will find out when he's going out to buy clothes where it's made and what kind of labor situation is behind the brand.
Our clients today more and more looking at remuneration with the fact that you partner with me and you do whatever you have to do for me as a client, but I will only pay you on the basis of performance metrics in the market. Is that working out or no? Not yet.
I would say particularly in our media and performance businesses, I don't think we have an agreement with one of our clients in a major way anywhere that doesn't have a performance element to it. So I think that's a natural part of the business where you're not being paid, for output. You're being paid for outcomes as well.
Exactly.
And I think that's something that we welcome here as an industry and as in our business, because that allows us to, again, move much more into the center of the business model.
Tim, I'd be curious to know, given that you've really been investing globally to build your business, almost like an upstart of sorts, are you making money yet, or are you still in the investment phase?
Oh, we've been profitable since day one.
Across markets?
Across markets.
Across markets. Now, how do you say that? Because I'm assuming if you're spending lots of money, you would be in an investment phase. For instance, Amazon is hugely successful in India, but it's spending a lot of money, and they have claimed that they don't want to make money and they're here for the long haul.
Well, let's not confuse the balance sheet with the P&L. So our investments have largely been investments off the balance sheet, of which our shareholders expect a return. And from that perspective, I think on a portfolio basis, we've delivered very well for our shareholders. If you look on a portfolio basis, the return to our shareholders and all the investments we've made in the last 10 years has vastly exceeded our weighted cost of capital. So from an investment standpoint off the balance sheet, we've been really great stewards of our investors' capital. Now, on the P&L, we've been adding businesses that bring us great innovation, that bring us great capability, and frankly, I don't buy any fixer-uppers. We don't have time for that. The businesses that we're buying are generally the premier businesses that have grown and are powerful already, but they're looking to us to help accelerate them. They get to a certain level of growth, and they feel, well, now's the time to align with someone. And I've been very fortunate. I got to Dentsu at the really right time. When I joined, 14 years ago, we started thinking about making these investments. Frankly, it was very hard I would call companies that we were interested in, and the reaction sometimes was, Dents who? Who are you? Now, there's no one around the world who has a good company in our industry that has serious, a need of partner alignment that isn't trying to get on my phone. And so, very few companies around the world who are in this industry are going to consider doing anything without talking to us. And frankly, we say no a lot. There's a lot of because look, M&A can be just purely something that's on paper, but we're in a people business, so this is a lot about chemistry. It's a lot about shared vision. These vendors, they've spent their life building this business, and we try to really understand that. And so we take a great deal of time trying to understand where they're going, where they want to go, what their future vision is. Not what our plan would be for them, it's just where their plan is. And then we check that against our strategy to say, does that fit with us? Because, I always use the analogy of a wedding and a marriage, right? Any fool can go have a wedding. It takes a lot of pre-work and a lot of alignment and a lot of shared values to have a marriage. And we've had really good marriages with our businesses. I'm very proud of the fact many of the principals that have sold us their company and are still with us far after when the deal is over. And I think that's a real sign of the fact that we did a good deal. They felt that they got what they expected out of it. So did we. And many people that came to us through acquisition are key managers leading our business.
I'll take a cue from that. You said wedding and marriage. Would you then say that the new beasts in the game, which would be, the Accentures and the Deloittes, are really in the wedding, are in the wedding business and are not conducting real marriages?
I don't know yet. Look, frankly, they're far better capitalized than we are. And, one of the things I know they have done is they're driving up price.
For sure. Yeah.
And that's a worry. And they're setting very high expectations. And so we do see them in that light. Oftentimes competing after the same asset. I think time will tell. I think for the consultancies like the Accentures and the IBMs and the others, they've always been very good at the ideation stage, at the consulting stage, but they have never had to really be responsible for the execution or the responsibility for really making sure that the strategy actually executes.
Yeah.
And as they get into managing creative businesses and how that facility works, they'll have challenges. But we take the threat very seriously.
It is a threat.
Absolutely. Yeah, without question.
But you think
I'm paid to be paranoid.
And last question before I let you go. I'm curious on how you think this industry and not the newbies have to remodel their financials, because they're used to a certain system and that's clearly not working very well right now. So what is the new model?
Well, look, I think we've talked about a bit of it. Some of it's going to be kind of making sure that we align the businesses and our relationship with clients, that total alignment is there when we're paid for the outcomes, and I think that's a part of the future and it's going to continue to grow. I think the business it's still a creative business. It's still very much idea led, but I think the investments are going to be required in to be technology enabled, to drive the efficiency and to take advantage of all the opportunity in the consumer led world. And then I think that we're going to be much more data informed. Now, these things are going to take investment. Some people have not made the investments, and that's why they're getting disrupted far more than others that have. We've been fortunate to be setting ourselves up for the digital world, not only the digital world, but the future world where analytics and insight are going to really matter. 10 years ago, everybody was talking about digital. Now, if somebody says digital to me, it's ubiquitous. There's no difference between digital is just the business, but the next step is when digital has reached this critical mass, is how you handle analytics, where you get insight, how you do that type of attribution. And 10 years from now, we're going to be attracting much more talent into this business that aren't just the creative types, not just the idea people. We need data scientists. We're going to be having mathematicians. This is going to be a different type of industry. And some of the companies are ready and prepared and resourced well enough to build for that, and some aren't. And that's going to shake the industry out.
Give me 3 predictions in the next 5 years. Who will crumble? Who will survive?
I'm not.
Come on.
I respect all our competitors. I'll give you 3 predictions.
Yeah, please.
I'll have probably in 5 years I'll have 3 more grandchildren.
Now, if you said children,
that
would have been a great headline.
In 5 years I'll be back at the Côte d'Azur and it'll be just as beautiful. And in 5 years, India is going to be a mecca, major driving market, bringing kind of the center of economic activity to Asia. We're a big.
You think so?
We're big believers in India.
Have you heard about us, being emerging? But we've been emerging for a long time now. We have to now emerge finally.
Double digit growth every year in the industry, and with great education system, great leaders, fantastic. Creativity that punches over the weight for the country. I'm a big believer in India.
And I hope that I'll see you in India shortly, given that we're going to be the Mecca in 5 years.
I look forward to seeing you in India at the next time.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.